Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the faithful stamper and independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you a sliding lock technique card. Now if you are to YouTube search sliding lock technique, you will find that 99% of the videos there are a different sliding lock technique, one that I've actually shown in a different video. I saw this idea from a friend of mine and I had to do a little hunting to find out how to make this card. It's very unique because the front of the card here has a sliding mechanism where if you push your front stamped image or shape to the side, you reveal a latch and the inside of the card. So it's probably not as complicated as you might think it is. Takes a little bit of finesse, but I promise it's actually not that difficult to make this card that has a little bit of magic to it. So I'm going to really quickly go over the supplies you need because it's not a lot. You will need a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 inches by 10.5. Now this is an 8.5 inch by 11 piece. I'm going to show you how to cut it down, but you can definitely start with a 5.5 by 10.5 sheet of cardstock. You will also need one print of designer series paper that is 4 inches wide by 5.25 inches tall. You will need an insert if you're using a dark colored card base, again 4 by 5.25, and then you will need a second piece of designer series paper that is 1 3/4 inches wide by 5.25 inches tall. So if you need to, pause the video or take a screenshot, grab a notebook, jot down those measurements, and then come back and we'll get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need is a paper trimmer. Our paper trimmer score is perfect for this because it's the perfect tool for the job. So I do need to extend the arm here because I'm using the longer sheet of paper. So again, I am starting with 8.5 by 11. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut it down to 5.5 inches tall. And then I'm going to pivot it, and I need it to be 10.5 inches long, so you're only cutting 1/2 inch off that other end. Next, 2 score lines is all we're going to need for our card. So you're going to be scoring along the top of the paper, the long side of the paper. So here's one important thing. There's 2 important things for this card. Here is one of them. So you're going to want to put your paper at 4.25 inches, but don't score yet. We're going to be scoring, but you don't want to score right on the 4.25 line, and I'll show you why in a minute. So line it up at 4.25 and then back it up just a hair. And if you have this particular trimmer, back it up 1/16, no more than that, and score it. And if you have a different trimmer, just back it up the tiniest little bit, not even 1/8 inch, just a smidge. Now slide it down to 8.5 and score right on that 8.5 mark. It's only that 4.25 one that you have to worry about. I'm going to bring my trimmer back over in a minute, but I want to show you why it's so important to have that 4.25 inch line just a little shy. When you flip your card over and fold the front panel, that first large panel in, it comes right up to the score line. And then when you fold in the other flap, you have a beautiful card base ready to go. If you score right on that 4.25 mark, your cardstock is going to be lined up on that score line, and when you go to fold, it's going to buckle and just not be nice. You'll wrinkle your cardstock and everything. So that's why it's important to have that card be just a little shy of 4.25 when you score. So now we only have one more thing to do here on the card front. You can flip it open. This small panel is 2 inches wide. So what you need to do is take a pencil and a ruler and put a line at the very top at 1 inch. So it doesn't really matter whether you measure from the score line or the fold. Since it's 2 inches, you're doing right in the center at the 1 inch mark. And what we are going to do is bring over our paper trimmer. I'm going to move my cutting blade up, and I'm going to cut diagonally. Remember, when you're assembling your card, this front flap is on the top right. So I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to cut from the center pencil mark on a diagonal down to this corner. This is just going to create the angle that we need to form the front of the card. So I line my little pencil mark and my corner up with the cutting track, and I moved my blade up to the top. Normally when I craft, I keep my cutting blade at the bottom and my scoring blade at the top so I don't accidentally cut something that I meant to score or vice versa. But it's not a good idea to bring your cutting blade up right on a corner. Sometimes your blade will actually catch the corner and then it'll buckle your cardstock and you'll have a mess and you'll need to start over. I've been there, done that. So when I'm working on a corner like this, I'm going to bring it up to the top and then cut down. And that way I have the perfect diagonal for my front flap. Now I need one other cut here, and then I can put my paper trimmer away. And you're going to need the smaller panel of Designer Series paper, the one that's 1 3/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And we're basically going to repeat the same step that we did on that to make that angled fold. So you need to get your ruler out and measure 3/4 of an inch from the right top corner. So let's see, 3/4 of an inch. If you're using a light colored Designer Series paper, this goes a lot easier. This dark one, I can barely see it, but that's okay. And then repeat your process. Pencil mark down to the corner. And again, I'm going to move that blade up so I don't ruin my paper. So once I have that positioned and I'm happy, close that. Now I've got my angled piece of cardstock, and I can move my trimmer out of the way, and I'm done with it. So now I'm going to show you how to make the magic that makes this card work. You will need for this a classic label punch. This is the long skinny rectangle punch. It's the perfect tool to make a little latch. So take your card base, flip it over so your angled panel is on the left. And what you're going to do is take your classic label punch, and we're only going to cut a snippet. We're not going to cut way over towards the score line. You just want to cut a little notch out of the edge. So I'm going to take my cardstock and I'm going to push it all the way down in the punch until that cardstock is resting on the bottom. It's as far as it can go in the punch. And then I'm going to slide it back over because I don't want it too close to that score line. This is maybe 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to punch. And you can see I've made this little notch. Now, if you're thinking, how in the world am I going to line that up? Here's the secret. Close your front flap, close your angled flap, grab that pencil, and very lightly just outline the end, the little pointy end of that punch. Because what we're going to do, flip open your card again, grab your punch, push it all the way in, and line it up right where that pencil mark is. And once you have it lined up, whoop, punch. And then, when you go to close your card, you've got a perfect window lined up on both sides. So now we're going to decorate the front of the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my Designer Series paper that is 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. I'm going to put some adhesive on the back. Now, you have to be a little careful with your glue placement. It really depends what kind of adhesive you're using. If you're using liquid glue, you might want to be a little more careful because you do have this window and you don't want to get glue in here that's going to transfer on the back. Actually, you could just be smart and flip it open like that. Don't mind me. But I found the more I tried to not get glue here, the more likely I was to get glue here. So what I did was I just put my adhesive around the edges here, and then I put it on the card front just like I would be normally gluing a panel on the front. And yes, I am covering up that hole. But here's the cool thing. Since you've got that hole punched already, flip your card over, grab your punch, line it up just like you did before. You can see that Designer Series paper, punch. And then we're going to repeat with our angled panel because we cut that piece of designer series paper. This one is a little trickier because it's more narrow here at the top, but I do it the same way. A little glue. I found this works best. I didn't have any trouble with it sticking anywhere. Line up your panel, little border around the edges. Press that down. I'm going to take my pencil really quick. I can see my little tick mark, so I want to get rid of that. And then, again, flip over. I can see my designer series paper. It does have a little bit of glue on it, but that's okay because I'm going to punch it off and get rid of my little scrap. And now, we're ready to continue with the card. So I'm going to go ahead and do my stamping, and then I'll show you how to make the magic happen. So I have a panel that is, pardon me, 5 1/4 by 4, and I am using the Hey Birthday Chick stamp set for this little card. These chicks are some of my favorites, and I haven't used them in a while. So I decided to have some fun with this card. So for the inside of the card, I'm going to take some black, Tuxedo Black Memento ink. And first of all, I have my sentiment that says, "Let's celebrate you." I'm going to put that here. Now, if you're new to stamping, one thing to remember is don't smush your stamps down in the ink pad. Gentle pressure is all you need. So these are red rubber cling stamps. I don't know if you can see there's a built-in foam layer so I can stamp right on my tabletop. I don't need anything underneath. And I tap, 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 tap. And then I can look and say, oh, I need a little more ink on my little chick here. Tap, tap, tap. That looks pretty good. If you're not sure, tap it again. Just you don't want to smush it down in there or you're going to end up ink all over the place where you don't want ink. Fingers, paper, stamp, everywhere. Took me a while to learn this when I first started. And then 1, 2, 3, and my stamp comes out very well. Now, one last thing on the inside of the card here, I'm going to take real red ink, and there's a sweet little confetti stamp that comes in the stamp set. And I like it because you can use it for other things. You don't have to use it just for this stamp set. That would make a cute background all over a card. And I'm just going to add 2 little confetti bunches there. I'm going to close up my red ink because I'm done with that one. And then my inside's ready to go. I'm just going to bring over my card base and my adhesive. I am using Stamp & Seal Plus, which is my favorite adhesive. This is great for cards and scrapbooks and 3D projects. It's a little stronger than our Stamp & Seal. And then once I have that lined up, I can just press that down. Now here is how we make the magic happen as far as the sliding mechanism. You are going to need a couple of shapes, either a punch or a die cut. I chose one of the layering circles. Whatever shape you choose, the main key is that you need to have it be the width of your classic label punch, because this shape is going to be our camouflage on the inside of the card. So this circle is just as wide to cover the classic label. And it doesn't have to be a circle. You can use an oval if it's long enough, or any other shape. But remember, it is going to be seen from the inside. So if there's a front and a back, or a good side and a bad side, make sure you have the bad side down so that the good side is showing. So just lay that, hold it in place over your window, and grab a Post-it note. It doesn't have to be a huge one, a little one will work fine. And then just put it so it half covers your shape and half fixes to the front of the card. Basically all you're doing, this is just holding this in place while we put the mechanism together. Then carefully close the card. Now we need some dimensionals. It just so happens that the large dimensionals we carry are the perfect width to fit in our little window, as long as you put them with the flat sides up and down. So I'm going to take one and fit it right in this little window. My backing's coming off already. And then I like to put 2, and I always put them towards the right side of the window. And so I'm just going to line up 2 right together if they're not sticking to my fingers like they are right now. So when you close your little latch, they shouldn't stick or shouldn't stick much. And then once you've got your 2 dimensionals on there, take your shape again, check front and back, make sure the good side is up, and position it so it's covering that window. Now, I just realized I solved a problem that I was having all day. If you had this piece closed before you put your shape on, if you tried to move this shape right now, it wouldn't move. You might panic. I did this every single time I put a sample together. I'm like, it's not working. I'll tell you why. If you didn't open your panel already, very gently pull it out. It might ruffle this a little bit, just press it back down, because this is not moving because we still have our Post-it note. So once you take the Post-it note out, this panel will slide back and forth. But if you had this closed, like so, before you took that Post-it off, which is what I did every time, I can't believe I didn't think to open that panel. Talk about feeling silly. That would not move, so then I would have had to just lift that out of the way. So it does work, but it's much easier, now that I think of it, if you leave that open. So look, you just learned something right there. So we've got our sliding mechanism. So all we have to do is decorate the card. So I have my little dancing hen here. I'm just going to add a little bit of color to her. I'm not going to go crazy with the markers. She needs a little color on her beak. And then a little red. I'm using my Stampin' Blends, and I stamped her earlier in the Memento black ink. That is the best ink to use for your alcohol markers, like our blends. So just like that, she's ready to go. Flip her over and put some dimensionals on the back. Now, you can use any shape you like, any sentiment you like here. It doesn't have to be a crazy chick dancing. It could be a plain old circle with a happy birthday in it. Whatever suits your needs. And then, if it's a larger shape, watch your dimensional placement so you don't accidentally glue anything to your card that you don't want glued down. So I'm just going to place her like that and go ahead and slide her over. Now, this is cute, and I could have left it just as it is, but I wanted to add one more thing. So I cut another smaller scallop circle. These are from our layering circle dies. I'm going to put this up here at the top. I wanted a little more red on the card. And then I have that scrap of cardstock that I cut off my 8.5 by 11 at the beginning of the video. I'm going to bring back over my Memento black ink, grab my sentiment, and looks good. Make sure you can see. Got my happy birthday there. And I'm going to revisit my classic label punch one more time and just punch out this happy birthday. And then I'm going to add this to the card using some mini dimensionals. And then I'm going to give you a tip on why I do not use the mini dimensionals in this window. If you'll notice, while I'm putting a couple mini dimensionals here on the back, they work. They're great for a thin strip like this, but they don't quite fill it up. And so once I get this on here, I'll show you the problem I encountered. I'm just going to put this, oop, I got a backing stuck to my finger. Just like that. And the card's ready to go. Now, the first time I attempted to make this card, this was what it was supposed to look like. And I thought, why can't I use mini dimensionals in here for my little window? Well, the problem I found was, my circle didn't quite work. I have too much give. My sliding thing, it slides all over the place. It slides up and down, and it's kind of wonky. So I didn't like that at all. So I abandoned the mini dimensional idea and went with the large ones for that mechanism. So just a little tip for you. And if you don't have dimensionals, large dimensionals, you could take a square of foam or the foam adhesive sheets and then just trim them down to just barely fit in that window, and that will work too. So I do have a couple other samples to show you how you can use this for any occasion. This is our smooth sailing stamp set, nautical in theme, and it's actually paired with our Sweet as a Peach designer series paper. I know that sounds funny, but it works because it's these awesome balmy blues. And so I did a different size label here. The one thing I found though is I can see, and maybe it's because I'm nitpicky, but I can see the very edges of my window, my classic label punch here, and I don't like that. So I wish it was a little longer, but it does work. And you can decorate the card however you like. Just be careful where you put any pieces, because if you put them down and they cover up the edge of your window here, you can almost kind of see that through there. When you go to slide it over, your sliding piece probably won't slide far enough, so just keep that in mind. But there's the inside of that card, and sometimes you do have to finagle your corners a little bit. The more you try this, the better you will get. That's what I found. Then I was in need of a baby card, so I made this sweet little card. I paired our hand pen petals paper with our All About Baby stamp set. I used our oval punch because the oval just barely covers that classic label. So this is our sliding piece. And then there's the inside of the card, and you can see the oval here. It does just perfectly cover that window. And then you can use this for any occasion, so I made a Christmas card using our Playful Penguins designer series paper. For this one, I didn't put a sentiment on the front. I wanted the inside to have the message, so I just did my designer series paper panels and then cut the sweet little polar bear out with another of the layering circles. There is my sliding mechanism, and there is the inside of my card. So I did find the circles work the best, but you could definitely use any shape here that just covers that classic label. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the sliding lock technique. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and check out the videos that I have posted here. I do live videos twice a week over on my Facebook channel, which is The Faithful Stamper, and then I post the videos here as well on Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care and happy crafting.